Hey friends, we're gonna go ahead and make a wooden mallet that we can use on all of our wood projects moving forward. Okay, so first thing we can do, you can laminate a number of layers on your mallet. That's one way to do it. I personally like to take a big chunk of wood and have the head of the mallet being just one solid piece of wood, so I can really use it and not worrying about those layers delaminating. So we're gonna take this chunk of ash, and it's a pretty rough piece yet. It's still got some bark on it. It has some lines from where it was cut on our mill, and I'm gonna take that and use this as my head. I'm gonna cut it down, and then I'm going to make a handle for it, and then we'll shape it and kind of make it a head after that. So you can decide on what you want for your mallet. For me, I like maybe about a 7 to an 8 inch head. I don't want it super big that it's unwieldy, but an 8 inch, it's almost too big. A 7 is, it's pretty decent. So I'm gonna go with an 8 inch today. Okay, so this is gonna be the start of our head. It's almost too big, but we're gonna use it anyway. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger when I need to, because this has some spots in it where there was some bugs that made some holes. So we're gonna go ahead and we're still gonna use this piece. And now the next thing I need to do is find the center this way and find the center this way. And I wanna drill a hole all the way through this piece. Now it's a little bit wide. I could cut this down a little bit if I wanted to. I'm just going to probably leave it that big. But the thing is, if I leave it that big, my handle is gonna have to go all the way through that. So I think I'll go ahead and I'll cut about an inch off of that, just so it's not so wide. All right, now I have my chunk here. I cut it down so I'm 3 inches wide. This way, I'm about 2 inches wide here, and I'm 8 inches wide here. It's a little bit big. It's a little bit over exaggerated. I could make it smaller for sure. But the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna leave it like this, and I'm gonna drill my hole in here. So now I need to find the center of this piece of wood, lengthways and widthways. So I have my ruler, and I'm at 2 3/16. So half of 2 is 1, and half of 3/16 is 3/32. So I'd be at 1, 2, 3. There's my center that way. My lengthways is right at 8, so I'm at 4. So where these two intersect, it's hard to see in the glare, I'm sorry. So where these two intersect, that's where I'm gonna drill that hole. I'm gonna drill an inch hole with a Forstner bit all the way through this. So I forgot to measure. I don't have enough reach with this bit. I'm not through all the way, so now I need to find the center from the other side and drill through that. The other thing is I could move my drill bit down a little bit. We'll see if we have enough reach here. so not quite enough still. I need to find the center on my other side, or the other thing I could do is put a small drill bit in, drill all the way through so I know where that opens up at. But I'm gonna go ahead, I trust my measuring abilities, so I'm gonna measure, find the center on this side, and then drill from this side. There we go, it wasn't hard at all. So now I need to shape my handle, and with this head, I need to make all these sides a little bit of a chamfer on each one of them. All the sides on the surface that's going to be hit, and all the edge. I want to make it nice and chamfered so I don't have any splinters that are going to come off of this head. Okay friends, so I have this 1.5 inch piece here that I'm going to use for my handle, and I need to mark how deep this part needs to go into that wood. I'm going to shape this with a spoke shave, one of these, and a file and a little block plane. So this part here has to be turned down basically to 1 inch, and I'm gonna do that by hand. I wanna leave this almost that thickness. I just wanna round the edges over so that way it has a shoulder to stop onto. But now I know exactly how deep I have to go so that this fits into there. Before you start rounding the edges, it would be handy if you could take a straight edge and mark your from corner to corner. And then take a circle template, find your hole size that you drilled, lay that on there, lining up your lines, make it line up in the center there, and then trace out where your circle is going to be. So that's got to be down 3 inches. So what I could do is I could take a coping saw or a back saw. I could cut down to my 3 inches and save me a lot of use on my spoke shave. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut down following this circle and cut down to my 3 inches, and that'll save me a lot of work on that spoke shave. So I got my back saw. I'm going to go ahead and cut on the edge here. Once I get down to my 3 inch line, I'm gonna take my coping saw and I'm gonna flare out so it creates that shoulder. Just like that. Now I'm gonna do it to all the rest of the sides, and then I'll start using the spoke shave to get it down to that inch that I wanted at. All right, now I'm to the point where I'm going to take my spoke shave and I'm gonna start working those corners, and I'm going to start making this into a rounded object. I'm also going to use a rounded file to shape this too, to create that circle that I need to stick in here. I know it's real close to the top, but not at the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a file, a rounded file, and file this so that it's nice and perpendicular to what this will be, so it'll fit on there pretty easy. right, so now I'm gonna take this handle and shape it, make it more rounded, and then shape all these edges with a file, and then it should be ready to go. We'll put a wedge in here, we'll cut it, put a wedge, and make this solid. All right, now at this stage in the game, we have our handle that fits the way we want it. We could go down a little bit more. I don't think it's really necessary. I might take it down a little bit more so we get rid of this little gap here and get it more on a shoulder, get it kind of tapered down here. And I'll do that with a file. And I also want to make this handle more round, and I like to put a little band on the end of this to where this handle is, this end of this is a little bit thicker. So I'll take a file and file all the way around here, and then I'll bring this down to that level. After that, I'm gonna work on the head, and I'm gonna take this head and I'm gonna put chamfers, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that, put little angles on all the ends and on all the sides, and then I'm gonna go ahead and sand everything and make it smooth and make it comfortable to hold. We're gonna do all of this with hand tools. So let's get to it. Now, because these are the end grains, I'm not going to take a plane on these and rip this stuff ripping out. I'm going to do this with a rasp going this way, and then I'll do it with a file. All right, friends, so earlier I said I'm going to only file this way. The reason for that is the grain on wood, it'll run towards the end. This is the end grain, and if I would file or rasp this way, it would have a tendency to pull that apart and then rip little chunks out here, and I don't want that. So that's why I only filed this way towards the end of the grain. So now we are done with the head. The head is done. Now back to the handle. I now need to cut down. I need to cut along the center, down about halfway, so I can put a wedge in there, and that's what holds the handle inside the head. So when I cut down, I'm gonna cut right in the middle, and I'm gonna cut down about halfway, and I like to use a back saw because it stays relatively straight up and down as long as I keep it pretty straight, where a coping saw will tend to turn a little bit. We don't want that. We don't want it kind of getting too shallow, too narrow on one side. So we'll use a back saw and cut about halfway down. All right, friends, so there we go. It's about halfway down. Now I need to make a wedge. Then I'll put my head on. Then I'll pound that wedge in, and that's what holds that head to the handle. So now we need to make a wedge. All right, friends, so I like to keep some thin material around just for this purpose. This is about 3/8 thick. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it in the vise like this, and then I'm gonna cut at an angle this way to create a wedge. And again, I'm gonna use my back saw because that will keep it straighter. And I want a pretty pronounced angle on it. I want a pretty sharp wedge, not a very flat one. So I'm gonna come in at this way and cut that way. A little trick, folks, is you can use a knife to kind of score where you want that first cut to be. And that helps produce a channel for your first cut. There you go, folks. There's the mallet. Go ahead and sand the handle real good, sand the head, make sure everything's sanded really well, and then go use your mallet and build all sorts of stuff. Thanks for watching.